Welcome into Boxing Scene today. That's right. We're live for the next couple of hours. Join us on YouTube. Join the discussion. Give us a chat. Maybe we'll talk about whatever you're talking about on the air. And there's a lot to talk about. We made it to Friday. But Jaron Boots Ennis, of course, hoping we can get a showdown between him and Virgil Ortiz Jr. A lot of out-of-ring issues with that fight. But a little added spice here. Devin Haney, in a resurfaced interview, calls Boots Ennis a nobody. Says, I tried to fight him at 147 pounds. He was moving up to 54. He's a great fighter, but he's not a star. What does star power mean? And does Jaron Boots Ennis have it? Jimmy Smith alongside the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi. We talked about this. Paul, I don't know if you were in the room when we were discussing. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday, having things checked out. The idea, Chris, that Ennis is one of those guys, incredibly talented, doesn't have a title at 54. Talented, strong, great fighter. Does he need the belt? Because he doesn't have, as Danny put it, star power right now.
Well, he doesn't. I mean, he's very well known, but there's a big gap between nobody and star. Yep. And, Boots is not a nobody, and he's not necessarily a star in the public image where he's a crossover type guy. And we've talked about that on our air. His profile doesn't match his skill set, which plagues a lot of fighters, especially earlier on in their career, although Boots has been around for a long time. But everybody knows who Boots is. I'm in the gyms, I travel, I'm at fight weeks. You cannot not bring up Boots.
Okay, but outside of the niche sport.
Right,
we're
but
a niche sport.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
In terms of the crossover appeal, it's not there.
Because
He's not a
people,
star.
outside of the niche, people know who Haney is, Gervonta's.
Because they're stars.
Usyk, yeah.
But he's not.
Joshua.
But he's not a nobody.
No, he's not a nobody because within the business, he has a big presence. Yeah.
Is it better, though, in a sense, to be more vulnerable if you're not going to have a name? Like, he's almost too good. He doesn't have a name, doesn't have a title, makes him more avoidable than someone who might not be as good but has a bigger name. Like, is there a sweet spot that he's just not in? Is he in the anti-sweet spot at 154?
I don't think there's any question about it being almost. That's definitely the problem.
Yeah.
He's way too dangerous. If you don't, he's one of those guys. If you don't have a title, like, why are you going to see him? It's almost it's not the same, but a Murtazaliev type guy. Like he's a really rough out. When he had a title, it's like okay, we could see him. Guys still avoided him. Josh Kelly toppled him, obviously, but we're not going to see him around anymore. He's a dangerous guy. He's still a dangerous guy. And Boots is dangerous in his prime and doesn't have a title, which is wild to think. The guy keeps getting looked over, is always on the outside looking in. But I mean, there is some credence to what Haney is saying. He is not the profile match of the guys that Haney is talking about, who Haney is. But his skill level is absolutely there.
You know what it is too. When you're that dangerous, you have to bring a lot of money to the table in order for people to take a chance on you. You bring good money to the table because you're a high level fighter, and there's always good money at high level fights. But there's not that super duper money. Like for example, Canelo can fight anybody he wants because there's always enough money on the table, no matter how good or how not good he might be. Guys like remember Golovkin back in the day, Bitterbiev. Now Ennis is having this problem. There's
too good for their own good.
Crawford even had this problem to a degree at welterweight when he wasn't in the circle of trust of PBC. So, sometimes you're so good, but the market value has to increase as well. You bring money, but the kind of money you need to bring in order to draw people to face such a dangerous opponent. There's dangerous opponents everywhere there, but you're dangerous even. You're considered dangerous even among the dangerous. And
so, to the same token, shouldn't we give Virgil even more credit for going after
he deserves all the credit.
I'm not even surprised. Yeah. The guy's been chasing tough fights before that too. When he fought Bohocuk, the prospect of fighting Bohocuk at that moment was very difficult.
Terrifying.
Madrimov as well. So I'm not surprised if Virgil would have fought Jaron Ennis.
Not that it's surprising, but I think we should give him all the credit in the world, like Jimmy said.
Yeah.
All right, but let's break down two things that a lot of fighters don't have that he has that doesn't seem to help him. He was a champion at 47. So he was a champ in a storied weight class. We always think of the welterweight champion as kind of the jewel of boxing. It's, last couple of years, it's building up right now. So he's a champ at 147, and he does sell in Philadelphia. He does have an area in which he sells. Well, we're talking about with Breadman yesterday about Philly will come out for Boots. It's got to be the right kind of fight. They'll come out for Boots. So he does have decent ticket selling local, and he was a champion. Why isn't that enough?
But Bread makes a great point too. He's never been the guy in his stable either, as far as the promoter wanting. For example, at welterweight, he's a big profile. He's a big name. He's possibly at the best welterweight in the world at the time. He was in the welterweight division, especially once everybody left. He was without a doubt the best welterweight in the world, but couldn't get a high profile fight. And
not for his trying. He was calling out the Crawfords and Spences.
And Matchroom had Ben. You could catapult Ben's popularity, because Ben's popularity is the opposite. Ben's popularity doesn't match how good he is, or how lack of good he is.
Skill doesn't match his
popularity. He's got the opposite. It's the opposite issue of with Ennis. So Matchroom could have easily let me propel this guy who's got a championship pedigree. Let me use this guy's popularity to propel this guy who's got a championship pedigree, and then sort of turn that star power over. Instead, they wanted to continue to milk the Conor Ben train, which I guess worked out.
Well, it did work.
Worked out for him until it didn't work out. But there were opportunities for Ennis with his team to be put into that mix. Even at PBC, man. Let's be honest. He was in PBC when there was a ton of top welterweights in the PBC era of the welterweight division, and he couldn't get any of those fights too.
Barrios,
he couldn't get any of those fights. So he's also not been treated as the ace that he is by the promotional teams that he's had either,
And again, he's still not, because he has the Josh Kelly fight could easily be made, and they're obviously looking
we thought that's exactly where they were going. It looks like it's Sanders Hayats.
Yeah. So it's also a problematic thing with internal politics.
The hard part, and you hear this a lot of times when people griping about promoters, they're great until they have to promote. I've heard that a million times. Promoters are great until they have to promote. All right, I'm knocking people out. I'm looking devastating doing it. All right, you saw what he did to Stanionis. He looked absolutely fantastic. What else do you want from me? It's kind of up to you to promote, I guess.
Put you in the position.
Yeah, I wasn't Olympic gold medalist.
Because it's not really. Promoters don't ever promote. They're again, like I said yesterday, they're booking agents. They're not really promoters. But you got to book the guy for bigger fights if he keeps dominating, if he keeps doing well. That they don't. It's not even about promoters are great until they have to promote. Promoters have to book fights. That's really what they are. You got to keep booking Ennis in a bigger and bigger profile fight if he keeps dominating, and they're not doing that. Nobody signed with has been doing that for him.
But to defend, which I never like to do, defend promoters and defend Eddie. Eddie did do a big rollout when they first signed Boots, and they were getting him fights in Philly. They brought him home. They built his profile there, and they gave him the Chukadzian fight. And remember, Eddie came in the ring afterwards, and Eddie was he's dying for that performance from Boots where he can go, I have the best fighter in the world. It came with Stanionis, but he had that Karen Chukadzian performance where we were all like, what the hell was that?
But why are we going to put him under the microscope and not anybody else? Ben, after he failed the drug test, and he came back and he looked dull in Orlando,
he looked dull twice in a row.
So that's forgiven, but Ennis is not forgiven for Chukadzian? Come on, Ennis is a higher level.
Because there's favoritism. We know that. Yeah. There's no question about that.
Just how to set that standard.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Paulie, that we put certain fighters or their performances under a microscope. Still won, still wasn't close. Right? It's this idea that still won, still did what he had to do.
Would Chukadzian beat Ben? Could Chukadzian beat Ben?
Yes.
That's what I mean. You're worried about Ennis not looking good against Chukadzian, but Chukadzian would beat Ben.
You know who else got this treatment to a degree was Teofimo. Like, he fought a lot of tough guys, and then he quote unquote underperformed because of his expectation for his potential, and he got raked over the coals. Teo kept putting himself in positions though, and which is why he's been able to get the big fights. But listen, it's not a single tiered system. It's a multi-tiered system based on your popularity, based on the relationship that you have with your promoter. There's favoritism, of course, which we've been discussing all week. But it's a shame because I think the public is not getting to see Boots in his prime at the best.
Is the public smart enough to read between the lines of what you're explaining?
There's so much going on. They don't stick to it. If you're a diehard Boots fan, which there's a lot of them, they are like, man, why is my man Boots not getting his opportunity? But for the rest of the world, everything keeps moving. Everything keeps moving in the sport, especially not lately.
Well, let's break it down just a little bit because, of course, the obvious question is Devin Haney versus Boots at some point, a possibility. What does Devin Haney have?
But how many weight classes do you want Devin Haney to go up?
Right, exactly.
Boots is going to 54, maybe even 60 eventually.
And he's a strong 54.
Haney started lightweight. I don't know how much more the Haney's really going to go up.
Right. But when you look at, for example, let's just break this down for 1 second. Haney's style, excellent boxer, isn't that aesthetic necessarily. It's technically very, very good. Not known as, if you were to show somebody who wasn't a boxing fan a fight, wouldn't necessarily be Devin Haney, right? Because he can knock you down. Not necessarily a power puncher, very, very slick, good fundamentals, great boxer. And you look at Boots, for example, his style I think is more aesthetic. I think he's a little bit more aggressive. So
he's a Philadelphia.
Right, why is Haney
also a puncher?
Why is Haney a crossover, as you point out, and Boots isn't? If you want to make that comparison, please.
Brilliant marketing.
Yeah, there's also There's also the it factor too, and some of that it factor with Haney comes into play with Bill Haney. You know, he's a bit of a character, and he creates that little bit of controversy around Devin. Also, Devin has gotten some of the profile fights that were necessary and needed. You know,
but also, we're not knocking Devin at all. I think Devin's
fantastic fighter,
super world class, but he's a more nuanced style. Like you said, you have to know what you're looking at to really appreciate
how good he is.
To appreciate how good he is and what he does in there. Where Boots, you just like you always say. Oh, my mom knows like you show your mom a Boots fight, she's gonna be like,
look at what Devin did on the way up though.
Love you, Mom.
He took a lot of faded champions and beat them and added them to the resume, and that looks good on your record as far as he beat this champion, he beat this champion. Does Ennis have any of those faded champions just to have names on his record? He doesn't really have that, and that also helps. That also helps you get notoriety. If you look at the Devin Haney thing, it used to drive me nuts. I thought Devin was avoiding fights, but in reality, it was actually building the profile correctly because now he's taking the chances. So when I look back, I'm like, damn. I was like, that actually, I learned something in watching that shoot. I wish somebody would have done that for me, man. They just threw me in. They just threw me in with everybody in their prime.
Bill, great job. Yeah, Bill Haney, fantastic job.
Yeah, but to go back to that point. That also makes a difference. Haney built on name recognition, wins over name recognition, even if
Linares,
they were faded.
JoJo.
Yeah, Gamboa, right?
Gamboa, yeah.
Does Ennis have any guys like that on his record that you can say, oh, he fought this guy? Even if they're old, looking back, when you look at a resume, you're like, oh, it gets them a little bit of notoriety, as they rise up to the level, And it's never got any of those fights. And he couldn't even get the poor guy couldn't even get the faded welterweight champions. He couldn't get anybody, like literally, right? Did he get any of it? He didn't get any of that, and that also helps in marketing and promoting you on the way up.
He got the guys like Delorme. He got
what is that?
Chris Van Heerden.
Van Heerden's actually, I think, better than he gets credit for. He just always got match tough too. But again, it's not because he doesn't get credit either.
Well, so if you look at Virgil too, who also fought a lot of we talked about this name dangerous guys early on, the Mauricio Herreras of the world. Delorme was another. I think he got Delorme as well. But there was who were some other guys like he fought some tough guys at 47 that he was just way too big for and blew through them. Some of those names will pop out. But yeah, I'm trying to think about Ennis in terms of who he had. In those builder years, there's not a lot of recognizable names, not like the way like Haney did. Haney, they followed the script of what you're supposed to do. If you have
and the timing of it.
Yes, if you have the endless opportunity and bankroll to pick and choose how to develop a fighter.
Yeah,
Devin,
and you know how to do it. And you got to have the bankroll and know how to do it.
But on top of it, but also you got to be able to fight. Devin could really fight. So Bill not only
believed
in his ability to move him,
the fighter little by little. Right, you'd also in those fights they get a little better. They get a little better.
When he got rocked by Linares, like that's an experience. Now you know how to right the ship and win the next round.
Southpaw and JoJo, right? And again some of the faded.
That in hindsight, that JoJo wins pretty good if you think about it. JoJo's still going.
JoJo still got
it. Still got it. Well, speaking of somebody who's still got it, doing their best work right now, and also some controversial opinions. I love it. Claressa Shields asked about fighting a man. She said, "I would beat Rolly Romero," quote, and this is it, "I'll beat Rolly, and he's a world champion." This was on the Justin LeBoy show. Listen, I think Rolly is an unorthodox, very strong, but I'm way taller than him, way longer than him, and I got better skills. He can't beat me in a fight. I love it. By the way, Claressa, I love this. Claressa keep going with it.
Grabs headlines.
Yes. Dude, so good at
Rolly
it.
would knock her block off, but you know what? I get it, and I praise the
balls.
The self-belief.
No, it's not about balls. It's not the fight is never going to happen. So it's not about balls.
The marketing.
It's about the what's the word? Clickbait. I praise the ability to get that clickbait.
It's also a little rage baity too. It's a little rage bait.
Yeah, because people are going to react to it. People are going to throw their arms up in the air. Keeps her in the conversation. Whatever. I mean,
if it gets hate and love, it's great. She's going to get a lot.
The only way to beat Rolly, unless you're supremely phenomenal. And I still don't think even that's an easy fight. Is to back him up.
You also got to be able to punch. He's only lost to like real.
Yeah,
punches.
you got, but backing him up. Some of that is a lot of times punchers will back you up. Yeah. You can outbox Rolly. I think Haney would outbox Rolly, but I don't think it's as easy of a fight stylistically as maybe Pitbull made it look like, because Pitbull is just a completely back you up guy. Yeah. So I think my pick would be Haney to beat Rolly, but I don't think he would do it as easily as Pitbull beats Rolly. And boxing math doesn't add up, because Haney would beat Pitbull every second of every round, right? So boxing math doesn't add up. But even from the perspective of guy to girl, she doesn't fight in a way where she doesn't fight in a manner where Rolly would have trouble.
3 knockouts and 17 wins.
Yeah, but she can box a little bit. Only wrong. For a woman, she boxes very well, actually.
I think she boxes well for anybody.
Her boxing skills
Now
are
she's a
great.
little wide with her shots, though.
Did you watch her last week? She was the best I've ever seen her by far. Her balance was way better.
Remember when she got dropped? She's a great boxer.
So
when she got dropped.
Wait. So the boxing math. I know you said like it doesn't work, but I'm gonna use it right now because
don't go there. You're the one who says boxing math don't work.
I'm gonna say it anyway. That's what we're talking about. We're saying boxing math doesn't work.
Right.
The guy who dropped her, Rolly knocked out in 2 rounds. All right. And it's funny. You know what's funny? That this is what I love about Clarissa, because you said she grabs headlines. Rolly tweeted at her. This was years ago, and when this went down, he tweeted at her. No, and he goes, I got him for you.
Oh,
and she took that and goes, I whoop your ass too.
But you know what?
Great.
I don't mind the clickbait.
It's great.
Clarissa's doing a great job
because she can fight. She can fight her ass off.
Yes.
But if you look at that little clip of her getting knocked down, they throw the same exact combination.
Yeah, he just threw a tighter.
But a 6-2 fighter threw 6-2 male fighter.
No, at the time he was amateur. He wasn't even.
He was okay. 6-2 amateur who wound up being a 6-2 pro, so he didn't go anywhere.
By the way, a guy I've sparred with.
Okay, another guy you sparred with, of course.
Who haven't you sparred with?
Clarissa.
Let me finish, guys. Let me finish. I'm trying to make a point here. See, a 6-2 guy, a guy who wanted to be 6'2" as a pro, against a female Olympic gold medalist. They threw the same exact combination at the same exact time. The reason he drops her is because he's tighter with his punches. Okay, so again, we have to establish that if you look at that clip when she goes down, the only thing I don't take a lot out of it, but you take something very key out of it, though. Even if you don't take a lot out of it, they're throwing the same exact punches at this, and they pull the trigger at the same exact time. His hook lands first because he's tighter with the combination.
Right. Also,
now, unpopular opinion: the difference between male boxing and female boxing.
The level, the all-around level is higher.
He's tighter, and he wound up being 6-2. So that standard is at a low level at male boxing. You gotta be tight with your punches regardless. Females are still, the level is going up.
He was also like a relatively small 35-pounder.
Yeah, he was. But having said that, if you look at Clarissa's overall creativity with the females, she's got a ton more creativity, a ton better shot selection, and an ability to outthink all her opponents as well, and better athleticism. So she is, for me, the best of the females I've seen.
Her gas tank is also phenomenal. Really,
she knows how to control the pace too.
She
knows how to up the action when she has to, but she knows how to control the breathing.
But I think that's also what got her in trouble even in that sparring session.
But is
getting too aggressive,
stepping too aggressive. But an athletic fighter also knows how to control the pace. That's part of being an athletic fighter, and she has that athleticism to box in that way.
But you see a lot of women late in fights really start to gas. You don't see that with Clarissa.
Because she knows how to control it.
Okay, well, a lot of women don't. I'm just saying. I'm showing her level.
One of the best sparring stories I heard. Chris Cyborg, if you know her, combat sports all around. She's done boxing, kickboxing, MMA. I was down in San Diego, and she was training with Alliance down there. And I was talking to guys who spar with her, and they were like, about a minute in, you go, dude, I'm gonna fight. She's shootbox trained back in Brazil. She goes go. And I've heard of these are name. I'm not gonna out any names here, but name guys were like,
I gotta hit her. Yeah.
I had to, boom, like drop and back her off me, like
And for the record, Chris Cyborg and Clarissa sparred in boxing, and they looked awesome. It was really good. Yeah. Chris Cyborg can really box. Yeah, very impressive.
And she's strong. I mean, it's unreal what she can take. So, but it's this idea of even like I don't want to like she's a bad spar. She goes hard in sparring. She's a little like hey, like I had to like check her to be like, okay, are we sparring or do you want me to check you? And she goes,
guys will
old school shootbox mentality.
Well, guys will typically spar hard with each other, but with girls sometimes we want to back off.
But Chris doesn't allow that.
Who might kick the crap out of you if you don't up the level a little bit. Yeah, you got to put.
I heard that from
a lot of females, especially in higher weight classes, are forced to spar with men a lot. Michaela Mayer is another one. She spars with a lot of guys because she has to. There's not a lot of girls at her level. I mean, she's in terms of girls that are 150 pounds, she's the best in the world. So where do you get sparring? You're basically going to be sparring your opponents who you're fighting soon. So they do end up sparring with a lot of men.
Yeah. I was in France doing Savat, and it was the TV show for Discovery Channel. They put a female, they called Savateurs, in there with me. They thought it would be funny or something. Like Bruce was like, "Oh, it'd be funny." And I'm like, sparring to me.
Yeah, we got to spar. Yeah.
Like, she threw. Dude,
you're not whipping my ass on TV.
She threw a wheel kick at me right in the beginning. Wheel kick, and I hit her with a jab, bing, and snapped her head back. And the director goes, and I go, sparring, dude. And I didn't hit her as hard as I could. She's not big, but I was like, dink. I hit her, and it wasn't
Yeah.
funny. It's like, dude, I've sparred with plenty of women. Like,
because if that wheel kick hits you,
bro, she threw a wheel kick zoom fast.
Because they know how to do it. So,
well, offensively, yeah, especially with kicks involved, and that's why female MMA you see a lot more knockouts. Kicks level the playing field a lot.
As a casual MMA fan, I think of Holly Holm and
kicking
Rousey,
around his head off. Yeah.
That was a badass kick.
Dude. Set up with great punches and footwork.
Exactly. So
Holly is a world champion in multiple sports. Yes.
Keep those hands up. She's a fantastic athlete as well. Got a super chat here. Matt Borgeson. I think Rolly gets seriously disrespected by the Pitbull performance. He was winning the fight with effective boxing until the ref took away a point for holding when it was an effective strategy. That's another good point as well.
Well, he was winning the fight with Gervonta. You were as you alluded to a couple days ago, which he was. He actually was boxing very, very smart in that fight, and then just got caught getting countered, being too aggressive as usual. Yep. The Cruz fight, it's not super fresh in my mind, but
I have to rewatch it.
I remember watching it. He wasn't in that fight very, very much.
Yeah, he was uncomfortable at a certain point because but I'll tell you. First of all, shout out to Matt Borgeson. He's in our chats
always
a
great
lot.
super chats, man. Appreciate you, man.
He's basically part of the show.
Yeah. Yes, at this point.
Here's Matt.
Yeah, but yeah,
we're gonna get you a chair soon, bro.
Seriously, bro.
I also think that Rolly gets a bad rap. Honestly, I think he gets.
You know what? You
know who sucks? Mario Barrios sucks. Not Rolly Romero.
Where's my water?
You turned me around on Barrios. Because you were always singing his praises, and I'm like, I don't
Barrios.
No, Rolly. Excuse me.
Don't mistake Rolly and Barrios, please.
Because you yell this guy's name so much. Every time I talk to you, I feel like I gotta say this. Anyway, so you were very adamant about Rollies for a long time, and I was like, I don't really see it, but he's turned out to be top notch.
All right, so another big signing right up your alley, Paulie. Get ready. BKB has signed Victor Ortiz, obviously superstar crossover guy, the Expendables, outstanding fighter, been signed by BKB. Multi-fight deal. Looks like he will be making his debut. Looks like May. Paulie, you fought for BKB. Mm-hmm. Fantastic performance last time, by the way.
For BKB. You have a fight coming up in May.
Fight coming up in May. No, his is summer. Yours is in May. What's your thought on his signing? What that means for BKB? The excitement level?
I'll tell you what. For me,
right up your alley, dude.
For me, I've noticed a little trend in the world of bare knuckle. I'm noticing that BKFC hedges more towards former UFC fighters. And BKB, I guess because of the roots being in England, the original BKB was in England, they're more hedging towards former pro boxers. You know, obviously there's a combination of both in both promotions, both BKFC and BKB. But you can see BKB making the effort to sign these former star pro boxers. BKB has recently not just signed Victor, obviously signed me, Yuriorkis Gamboa, Lee Selby as well. And you remember BKFC made a big name off themselves. Yes, I followed BKFC one fight, but mostly they made a big name for themselves, signing guys like Eddie Alvarez,
Mike Perry,
and guys that were names in the UFC.
Who made really fun fights.
Chad Mendez, I think, as well.
Yeah, Chad Mendez.
And then even the girl, what's her name? The hot chick, what's her name? Come on, guys, you guys know.
Yeah. She's a local.
Yeah.
Here actually.
Her name is just totally escaping me now. Paige Van Zandt.
Thank
you. I was like,
I almost said Kat Zingano.
Yeah, I'm like, go for my Rolodex. Paige Van Zandt.
So they've made their sort of set their standard with UFC.
Britain Hart too.
Yeah, Britain Hart.
She's another one. She's
Britain Hart. Britain Hart. But BKB was it goes the former pro boxing champion route, and I think because of the popularity that the promotion of BKB has in the UK. Either way, both companies are big companies, and they're starting to bring out their pocketbooks, open up their pocketbooks, so to speak, for these fighters. I think Victor is a prominent name to sign. He's been in a Mayweather fight. He's a former world champion. He also, I think, in some ways, he didn't live up to the possible hype that was set before him.
He was supposed to be De La
Victor
Hoya.
was
good looking,
Mexican-American. Had all of the it factors that was there, and it came up a little short. And it just goes to show you the standard that was there for Victor, because he still became a world champion, was in a major fight with Mayweather, and won some very big fights as well.
Maidana as well.
So he fought Maidana, beat Andre Berto.
Dropped Maidana.
Yeah, dropped Maidana.
That Berto fight was amazing.
Yeah.
So the fact that most people would dream of a career like that, but the fact that Victor had that kind of career and it's a disappointment shows you the standard that was set before Victor. So for Victor, To be a signing for BKB, I think is a big snag. They grabbed a big fish here. I think Victor is a big name. Also, I'm already hearing the rumors of possibly me and Victor fighting in BKB. It's ironically a fight that could have happened in boxing, because we kind of cross each other's orbits during some years of. Obviously, I turned pro before him, but he was still around at a high level, and I was still hovering around at that high level. Matter of fact, I think he won his world title in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, and I won my second world title in 2012. So there was a time where we were hovering around one another. Matter of fact, if I'm thinking now, after I lost to Ricky Hatton, Golden Boy actually called the Bell Entertainment looking for an opponent, Victor Ortiz, and asked for me because I looked like I was shot down already, And we turned it down because we were looking to rebuild. And I remember they got Mike Arnudis, and he knocked out Mike Arnudis.
Yeah.
And then the next fight, he lost to Chino Maidana, and it just came crumbling down for a little bit before he rebuilt. So Victor was up and down. But in the meantime,
Mike Arnudis too.
You did fight Mike Arnudis as well. In the meantime, I wanted with the Juan Diaz fights, and my career went a different direction, and we never fought, even if we both ended up winning world titles after that. So it's funny because this is sort of a conversation that's sort of orbiting now. A fight that never happened in boxing maybe happens in BKB.
I think we're going to see a lot of that, actually. Because like you said, the move for BKB to start targeting boxing signings and getting these big names, and there's more and more of these guys coming up. And if you notice, it's guys like our age. It's not like they're not signing guys that are because they're technically retired.
I think that a fighter who's in his prime, if he can accomplish a world-class level in his main sport,
he's not going to
protect his hands, right? Because with BKB, your
face,
your hands.
Cuts take a
cuts. Come on, cuts are overrated.
Cuts matter a lot more in regular boxing, and you want because scar tissue. Yeah, Mr. Scar Tissue over here. Like you understand?
Yeah, no. I got so used to being cut at this point that
you were good at it.
I don't know. For me that's I'll take that over a brain hemorrhage.
For the record, guys at home, off camera, Paulie and I compared how many stitches we both had. Paulie doesn't know how many because there's so many.
Yeah,
I've had 6.
Don't judge
6 stitches.
Don't judge him for how many stitches he had because he's had so few.
Yes.
But
judge me by my failure. Yeah, so few.
But go ahead.
But to transition, tell us about your fight, man. How things are going. By the way, he works out next door. There's a fitness place next door. Every time I go by, you're doing your work, man.
It's one of my workouts. I do several workouts a day. I keep them small in duration because us old guys, we got to keep our workouts small in duration. But I do several a day so that I can handle it in the small in duration, and that's how I got myself ready for my previous fight, and that's how I'm getting myself ready for this fight. And it's for the BKB world title, so it's a big opportunity and a big feather in my hat if I could win it. I'm obviously fighting a good fighter, Rolando D, who is a Filipino. Bare knuckle world champion, BKB world champion, whose father, if you guys would look this guy up, was Rolando Navarrete, the Filipino WBC world champion in like the early 80s. He was WBC 130-pound world champion. So Rolando Navarrete is Rolando D's father. So there's a little bit of a backstory here, which is kind of interesting, almost like 6 degrees of separation,
Well, not even that. I think it just shows you that how important boxing is for bare knuckle. And like you talked about the MMA guys who are coming over, I think there's obviously a shift.
But D's father was a boxing world champion, but D actually was a UFC fighter. He didn't come from boxing. So that's the thing about bare knuckle.
Because I always say that too, because everyone always asks me like, "Oh, Chris, you were a world champion kickboxer, you were a high level wrestler. How come you didn't go the UFC route?" I just missed it by timing. Yeah. Because if I grew up watching Randy Couture when I was a kid, I probably would have went MMA. But I didn't grow up watching Randy Couture. I grew up watching Mike Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya, and Roy Jones Jr. So I wanted to be a boxer. So for me, there was never. So you got a guy like Rolando D, who grew up probably watching UFC those early days and Pride, and was like, "Yeah, that's where I'm going to go." My dad did it in boxing. Boxing's such a brutal business, and getting in early on MMA is, at that time, is probably a lot smarter and more lucrative. So I think you see that. But also, to my point is, because BKB is going BKB, right? I always confuse this. BKB seems to be targeting more boxers. I think there's going to be a very obvious shift in technique, strategy, and skill level that we're watching in real time with bare knuckle, because it's not a new sport at all. It's actually probably older than boxing, but in terms of what it is now, it's a very new sport, and we are seeing it progress very, very quickly. So from your first fight back in 2019 with Lobov to what you are now, it's a completely different sport. It's completely different. got guys who can really fight.
Fights
now.
are much more difficult now. Yeah, absolutely.
Also, if you're around the area, you might see me and Paulie in the driveway doing pad work like we did for the last. So we got to get that going.
Cham holds some pads for me, helps me out. So a little bit.
Does a little bit of wrestling with Jimmy here.
I teach him the sneaky.
Hey, don't tell him. That would stay in my back pocket. A couple of things that I get from my UFC resident here.
And there's a lot of bare knuckle people down here. Jamie Driver is someone that trains out of my gym. She's a multiple time world champion.
She's in a cast now?
Yeah, she literally broke her forearm. But she'd always tell me, she's like, "Oh, tell Paulie the biggest thing is going to be fighting on the inside, the grabs and the holds and things like that." So it is a very different sport, and it's a whole new technique.
It's
style
boxing, but then it's not boxing.
Yeah, it's dirty boxing, but it's also a little more
nuances.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, that's right, the big fight preview for the big one coming up on the 21st, right after this.
Saturday, March 21st, ProBox TV invades the NOS Event Center as Lester Martinez and Emmanuel Ali battle for the WBC World Super Middleweight title. Palmdale's Joshua Kevin Anton battles the Uzbeki Punisher. LA is in the house as Anthony Too Quick Cuba defends home turf against Brooklyn's Wesley Farrell, while Sam Contreras takes on Cesar Cantu.
Lester Martinez versus Emmanuel Alim at 168 pounds, WBC interim title on the line. Not just about, of course, the power of Lester Martinez, not about the opportunity in front of him. It's also about Emmanuel Alim and his experience level. To help us break that down, we got Tony Jeter, who's the coach of Emmanuel Alim. Thank you so much for joining us, man. Talk about this challenge and how Alim is getting ready for this fight.
Real quick, I'm the promoter, not the coach.
Close enough for me. How's he getting ready for this fight, man?
Preparing to, sparring, training, whatever, he's been preparing for a long time. Like, I listened to the interview y'all had previous, and, Alim has been on the big stage so many times.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I want to make sure there's no background.
No problem.
But yeah, Alim's been on the big stage so many times. Y'all were talking about how Lester, he had just fought on the Canelo undercard. That was the first time he had stepped on a big level, like a huge level. And Alim had been there multiple times. He had been at the Barclay, had been at the Patriot Center. He had been in, because another thing y'all had said that Alim had a tough road. He was with PBC when he started. He was with the Paul Williams camp. They actually trained at the gym my wife owned. So Paul Williams would hold his camp, and Alim was a part of that camp. So, go ahead.
So Alim's been around for a while, going back to the Paul Williams days, Tony. That's a vast amount of experience. How do you see his experience playing a factor in this fight? Because obviously he's got way more experience than Lester.
He does. I mean, Lester is tough. Lester is a come forward. He's got a good motor. He's aggressive, but that's what's going to help Alim, because Alim's going to be able to punch in between the exchanges, and Alim's got quick, sharp punches. Good left hook. I mean, that's Keytroff. That's what he knocked Keytroff out with. He's got a good overhand right. So he could punch. He has all the arsenal. And what y'all were saying was completely correct. Both guys, it's like they need to win this. This is a world title fight. It's an interim world title fight. But this is, Billy just was elevated from intern to world. So this is an incredible opportunity, and but Alim definitely has he has the skills, the talent. He has a great team too. It's his whole family. Like, his mother's the manager. She does so much. The father is an incredible coach. Like, the father has got, and his brother Moshe, he might have been the most talented out of all of them. I guess he had a loss with Chardell Brooker, who just fought Fundora for the world title. But, so he comes from a fighting family, and that whole family is really squared away. It's gonna be a difficult task for Lester, and I do like Lester. He's got a good style. He's come forward. He's aggressive. Sort of like a kamikaze, like I don't really care style. I think he went to the Olympics, right? He was on the Guatemalan Olympic team.
Decorated amateur in Guatemala, Caribbean champion.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's definitely got a ton of experience, but like I said, Aleem has those, he can fight and he knows how to fight in the mix.
Yeah, Tony, you're co-signing everything that we had said about Aleem in prior shows, and Paulie and I, Champ, know much about Aleem. The Kitrov win was big because we're New York guys. I remember Kitrov coming up, a lot of hype around him. That was a stunning KO. And we've been saying that about Aleem. He has the ability to find those holes. He's very tricky. He sets traps. In fact, I think Champ and I both agree this is probably a more difficult fight than the Christian Mbili fight. He's a little more dangerous. Not necessarily more difficult, but he's more dangerous because he hits you with shots that you don't see. He's very, very crafty. Where does he get that from? Where does he get that IQ from where he's been able to develop this style where he does stay in the pocket? He's not like he's hard to find, but he's in there and he's going to hurt you if you give him an opportunity.
Well, like you were saying, like the Mbili fight, Aleem's going to be so much different because Mbili's right in front of you, all throwing bomb after bomb. Right, straightforward, all hard punches. Where Aleem's going to be able to slip, slide. He'll be able to come forward if he needs to. He'll be able to box if he needs to. And like I said, his punches are crisp, sharp, clean. And those are the punches with somebody like Lester Martinez, who is like a kamikaze, straightforward, all offense type fighter. You catch that kid in the exchange with a good hook or something, and then the fight, can switch fast. So that I don't know if Mbili. I do feel like Aleem is a dangerous fight, super dangerous. They couldn't have picked a more dangerous guy for a moment like that in Aleem.
When you look at the adjustments Les Martinez made, of course, coached by Bomac, he made adjustments in the Mbili fight, started boxing about halfway through and started really taking those rounds. That's why he ended up getting a draw. Is he going to have to adjust a little bit quicker against Aleem? Because Lester did make adjustments about halfway through the fight, and those rounds early on cost him. Is he going to have to make adjustments earlier against Aleem because of Aleem's skill set, as you just said?
I thought Lester actually pulled ahead of Mbili, but they did a 10-round fight. It was crazy how they did that. I thought Lester had pulled it out at the end, but it's going to be a totally different fight. Mbili is a straightforward, like aggressive. Most of his fights are by knockout. Aleem going to be a little bit different, but like I was saying earlier, Aleem's been on this big stage so many times. Like he's been in front of 15,000, 16,000, where I think Lester's only had it one time. We've promoted Aleem for the last 5 fights. He was with PBC, and we've had him for the last 5 fights. All 5 fights I've had him have been at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, where y'all been the last couple times. Mm-hmm. So he's sort of been on the same level that Lester's been on, minus the Canelo fight. For the last 5 fights. So I feel like Aleem is beyond ready. And like we don't have tomorrow. He has to get it that day. He has to be on point.
Well, Tony, you mentioned it's a good point. You don't have tomorrow. I think with both guys, it's a very important moment in their careers. You also mentioned the pro experience, the big fight pro experience Aleem has. This fight, obviously the experience helps him, but this fight gets added to all the other experiences. How much more, how much more important is this one? Is it because he's now getting a little older and he's got to make it happen? Is this the most difficult step up for Aleem?
Well, I feel like the moment he's fighting for the interim title. I mean, these are life-changing moments. Like more importantly, I mean, 32, 33 in today's sport is different than 20 years ago, just with supplements, training, and everything. Like guys are, but the moment itself, moment may never come around again. So this is a moment he has to take full advantage of. And I feel like the same thing for Lester. And like I was saying earlier, not an easy fight for Lester. And you know,
Tony, talk to us about how Aleem is in the gym, like in terms of what kind of guy is he? Is you know his discipline level, his putting in the extra work. What kind of guy is he? Is he in the gym? Is he one of those super talented guys who kind of just shows up and just is on, or is he a guy that's sleeping in the gym and a real gym rat? Because we don't know him. The fans don't know him personally like that.
yeah, no, he's an incredible, like, I mean, he's an athlete. I mean, y'all seen him fight multiple times with the Keytron and so many of them fights. Like, I mean, in the gym, I feel like fighters in the gym, a lot of guys do better in the gym because the spotlight's not on them. They don't have 15,000. But Aleem has been an incredible guy. I'll give you a little story, and I won't tell the name. But we had this guy who was getting ready for a Top Rank show. He was the main event on Top Rank, and 2 weeks prior to them fighting on Top Rank, main event, big fight. This kid was a national Gold Gloves champion, and he came into my gym because Lean trained at my gym my wife's gym for a long time. And Aleem caught this kid like 2 weeks out from his big fight, and knocked him slam out in the gym, and everybody was like, "Holy crap!" You know. It was a bad look for that guy because he had a fight in 2 weeks on a huge stage.
Did the guy win?
He did not. He got stopped in the second round.
Wow.
But he had just got knocked out 2 weeks earlier. That's why I believe when you're getting ready for a big fight like that, you need to really tone down when you get close, because something like that happened. And that guy is he's a national Gold Gloves champion. He still is an incredible fighter. He still has time, like Aleem, to come back. But yeah.
So
like
nobody's calling you guys for sparring late in the camp, then, huh? Is that what you're saying?
Nah. Like I said, like Aleem is, but y'all know, like, I mean, he wouldn't be in this moment if he wouldn't be in this moment if he wasn't. And like I said, we've had him for 5 fights, but he had fought on my undercard his 3rd fight. I was the main event. I beat Jimmy Lang at the Patriots Center, and he was on my undercard. So we've known each other for a long time. Crazy that you fast forward, and now I'm promoting Aleem.
Hey, man, appreciate you very much. Best of luck to you. We'll be out there March 21st right here on ProBox TV. Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thank y'all, and I look forward to meeting y'all.
Definitely, for sure. So this idea, Lester Martinez, he said there's no tomorrow for these guys. This is do or die. We always talk about the step forward both these guys could take with a win, especially looking impressive, big stage in Southern California. The loser, man, has a tough mountain in a 168-pound division that is very, very hot right now. Is this a can't afford to lose kind of situation?
Well,
you don't want to think that way as a fighter, but it's certainly a possibility.
I think their levels change with a loss here. Yep. So Aleem, this is his last chance. Excuse me, this is his last chance to elevate and get into the world-class status once again, to vie for an actual world title, to fight these big-name guys, get in these big stages. With a loss here, if he looks good on a loss here, he can move on and be like a ProBox TV guy. He can get another shot, maybe on a bigger stage, and get pulled up in that sense. But he's certainly going to be the B-side. With a win, obviously, he steps into some real money-making opportunities and some good contention. Still going to have to fight some really tough fights on bigger stages. With Lester, a win here, obviously, we know, we've been talking about it. You know, he's interim champion. He's in line potentially for the winner of Mbili and Canelo. Whether he ever gets to see either one of those guys, is going to be a lot of political movements. But with a loss here, it's going to put a little bit of a ceiling on Lester. It's going to be really difficult for him to break through that glass ceiling once again to get back to this area. It would take some rebuilding. It'll be tough. He might get some calls to be the beat side if you lose a fight like this. Some people are going to write him off completely. You're not supposed to lose to a guy like Aleem when you're at Lester's level, when you're trying to be world-class and trying to be the first Guatemalan world champion. So a lot on the line for both these guys. I don't think either one of them it will be... Both, of course, won't be happy with a loss, but neither one of them can risk not going out there and putting on their very best. But a lot to lose here. But at the end of the day, I think there's more to lose for Lester. I think it's a much riskier situation because, like I said, Aleem loses here. You know, he's going to be the underdog, but if he performs well, he'll still get some good fights coming along the way. But Lester, a loss here, and the shine will really be knocked off of his luster.
You know, I think both guys it's a must win in that way. But I'll say one thing to push back on you, champ. He still has a draw against the WBC super middleweight champion. So if Lester loses, he's not he's not on a streak
to lose this.
Yeah.
It's Christian Billy. You got to draw with him. Wow, that's awesome. But like if you lose,
but it's still on your resume. He could get brought back as an opponent for a big name and maybe have another opportunity somewhere else. But I think as far as
Kucherov never got anywhere with a loss to Aleem.
Yeah, but Kucherov didn't have a draw with a world champion, you know.
But is he in the room? You talk about kind of the room.
Lester is in the room, but if he loses, he's on the outside of the room, or he's trying, or the door's open. They're trying to kick him out, and maybe
it's like the nightclub. It's you're outside of the club now. Now you go get through the bouncer.
No, they're pushing him out, and he's dragging his feet in there because he could still get an opportunity as a B-side if he loses this fight. Because again, that draw against Mbili still holds up. You know, where you could get a phone call for Aleem. His ability to get these phone calls drops off if he doesn't at least perform well. But you know that story is why we bring on these interviews. You know, Tony, the promoter for Aleem, interesting story. You know, we know Aleem throws explosive punches. You know, and he can hurt you at any point. So this is a dynamite fight for these two guys because both of these guys have that kind of explosive fight-changing power in an instant. You know, and he makes a good point too in that. For this moment in Lester's career where it's basically a middle of the road, stay busy fight before you can jump back in, this is about as tough an opponent as can be for this level of fight, you know? So
which we said as soon as we announced it. You and I both looked at each other, we were like, that's a tough fight.
Yeah, it's not
dangerous.
It's not Pacheco, it's not Shiraz, but it also if you're gonna drop
those are
a
big
level,
money fights too.
Yeah, but if you're gonna drop a level, like this is a tough fight for that level, you know.
Technically, it's a stay busy fight, but it's not a stay busy opponent.
But at the same time, it's ProBox, so what can we expect? You know, it's a stay busy fight on ProBox. It's not really ever. It's never really a gimme. So Aleem, you know, has that explosive fight changing power. He has that dynamic athleticism.
I'm glad that Tony co-signed all the things that we have been saying exactly about him, and even Bomac did. He said that too. Now you just got to go out there and make us look good and actually fight this way.
No, but I tell you, this is a fun fight. This is not just a showcase. You know, a lot of times these kind of situations. I guess that's what Tony was trying to say. These kind of situations call for a showcase type of fight. You know, where Lester just put his name on the big stage, and now people are just going to be curious about him. You could easily just use this as a showcase fight, but this is not a showcase opponent. This is an opponent where if you're not wired live that night, he can turn out the lights on you, Can Aleem. So you know, it's actually a fun fight. It's a fun ProBox fight. It could be a drag-out war. It could be a destructive 2-round fight. Yeah, it could be a 2-round war for all I'm talking about. It could be, you know, multiple knockdowns. It could be. Listen, both of these guys are dangerous to one another, and both of these guys won't have to find each other. Both of these guys like to fight, and they like to look for the dynamite shots. It's not like one of them is going to have to look that hard to find the other one in the ring. You know, they're not going to be hiding.
But you always say, Paulie, that you know if you're trying to rebuild or you want to get some attention, don't fight a puncher. Don't fight a puncher.
Yeah.
Don't fight a puncher.
Don't have a choice.
Right. They don't have a choice. But the flip side of where does each guy go, if you're not on a winning streak, if you're not looking impressive, you don't give somebody a reason, you would never choose a fighter like this. You're surprised that, you know, this is a not comeback fight, but this is the fight after a breakout fight for Lester Martinez. If you lose, Lester Martinez loses, let's say, just, you know, loses a big upset, all right, in a fight he was supposed to win and look impressive.
On a step-down show. And that's big. That's a big part of this.
Right.
When you go from fighting like an undercard to fighting on a ProBox TV
undercard.
Yeah, exactly. Which was, you know, introduction to the world, and now you go down to this to back to this level. You're going backwards in terms of, you know, the level of fight, which is why this had to be such a tough fight. Because he is going down a rung in terms of promotion and show, but the level of competition has to stay high. It has to live up to the ProBox TV standard. This is not just a showcase where we're like, we're putting Lester in the main event because it's Lester Martinez, so it doesn't matter who he fights.
Yeah.
No, he's got to fight somebody for real, and Aleem is for real. So this, like Champ said, this is a good, fun fight.
A phrase that I borrowed from Teddy Atlas one time, and I say GBND.
You borrow many from him.
But you borrow a lot of good ones. He spits them all out. I call them GBNDs, right? Game but not dangerous. This guy's game but not dangerous. And I remember it was Zab Judah's comeback, and it was on ESPN, and Teddy Atlas was calling the fight, and he was calling the highlights of, you know, Zab Judah won. And he goes, "This is a guy you want rebuilding somebody. Game but not dangerous." And I went, man, that describes so. He's there. He's going to be in front of you.
I think
he's going to hurt you.
A puncher, though,
but he's not going to knock you out.
I think I talked about this. I believe it was Omar Vise. the Argentinian who was very tricky, but he couldn't punch. I believe, because you had mentioned this before, I believe it was him. It was either that or it was Vester who he beat
Alan
up.
Vester,
It was either Alan Vester or Omar Weiss.
Yeah.
But it'd be either way, both guys.
Weiss is
Game,
very
but
crafty.
not dangerous.
Weiss was very
Vester
crafty.
was
Vester was there to
pastry.
get. He was there to get splattered.
Yeah.
But
Weiss
was there to get splattered too. But he was just too good.
Weiss was crafty. He
Very
did get
good.
splattered for a second, but I think he got up and went the
He got
distance.
cracked with that uppercut. That
I think
jab
he went
always
the
throws.
distance, if I
and he went the
remember
distance.
So it was
yes,
Weiss.
yes.
So it was Weiss.
And he won
'cause
rounds too. He was in the fight.
No,
But-
Weiss was a crafty guy. I remember he was a pretty good fighter.
But neither one of these guys are GBNDs. They're dangerous. They're both dangerous guys. And is it hard to rebuild and remarket a dangerous guy?
GBND type of opponent, you're looking at
Not
for the
ProBox,
point
that's
of,
for sure.
of
Yeah, ProBox
who
doesn't have a
Lester-
lot of those,
who
right?
Lester's gonna fight. So you look at it, because obviously Lester is the guy who's on the come up, but is Aleem the GBND? No, because he can punch. He can punch. He's game, and his punching power makes him
And
dangerous.
he's dangerous.
And his craftiness to set up that punching power makes him dangerous. So you got to be alive. And listen, one thing about Lester, though, he's always switched on. He likes a good fight himself.
Yeah.
This is why this is for however long it lasts. It's a fight.
What is the power or ability, to the fans who don't know, an interim title in the WBC? Because that's what's on the line. Chris, how valuable is it? Where does the winner go? What does it mean to actually get that around your waist at this point in boxing?
Go watch the interview with Lester, and when he talks about that, that's how important that is.
Yeah.
It's for a fighter in terms of what it means to them. It's a big deal. Granted, he wants a full world title, and he said that, but he lit up when he talked about having an opportunity to fight for an interim title. Also, we've seen in recent time a lot of interim champions being upped and become full champions. So that's one thing. And then two, it's just ranking. If you are the interim champ, you're supposed to be next in line. Great meritocracy and rankings don't always play the
Not always the same, yeah.
Not always the same in this sport,
I'm glad
but-
Champ got to answer that question.
but it's
first.
still important.
He's our political analyst here. He got to answer it first. For me, if it has teeth and if the interim status is enforced to a full world title shot soon, okay. If it doesn't, which many times it doesn't, actually most of the time I see that it doesn't, then it's that and $3 will get you on the MTA on the subway in New York City, and you can show it off if you want. But it doesn't mean anything.
But to your point, guys like Lester, probably it doesn't have teeth because he's going to be avoidable.
Well, that's the
and
thing.
he's not-
I'll give you an
Yeah,
example. I'll give you an
that's the
example.
question.
Sometimes me and Chris go on to personal stories of our careers. I remember when I had to go to Ukraine to fight Sinchenko for the WBA welterweight title. At the time, the super champion only showed himself if there were 5 title defenses or if it was unification. So a super champion did not exist in every weight class. The WBA welterweight title was the world title. If you were a special world champion, you became a super champion. Today, it's a super title for everything and a world title for everything. It's just 2 different belts. They completely manipulated that system. Okay. At the time, though, the WBA welterweight champion was the world champion, unless that welterweight champion became special and unified. Like Mayweather wound up unifying with his WBC title when he beat Maidana, then it became a super title. Anyway, what I'm saying is this. I was offered to go to Ukraine, take a risk for the WBA title. If it was the interim title or any secondary world title, I was not going to Ukraine, bro. It didn't, because these things tend to not have teeth. Okay, so I'm not going to Ukraine and risking my entire career because I was one loss away from falling off the cliff in terms of my career ending, at least at a high level, and it was like almost basically as close to a must-win as can be. I was not going to risk my career for a secondary title. So
and Champ, good for you because a lot of people. Guys and girls, they'll win an interim title, and then they'll tell everybody till the cows come home that they were 2-time world champions, 3-time world champions when there was someone else in the weight class who had that belt.
Yeah,
a lot of people do that.
But the thing is, it was also a lot of risk. You go there, there could be politics, there could be everything. I'm not doing it unless the reward is so high. You know what I mean? Where there's the major title is there. I wasn't gonna do it for the secondary title or third rate title or whatnot because like I just explained, sometimes these things don't have teeth. A lot of times, unfortunately, these things don't have teeth. Back in the 90s and 80s. Well, 80s, I don't know if they created interims yet, but by the 90s, the interims did have teeth when they first started using interims. They weren't forced. Within 6 months, you had to fight the full champion. The full champion would be stripped. Nowadays, it's not enforced. So I was not.
Some guys do get upped.
Some guys get upped.
We've seen it a lot. So
Gervonta Davis became lightweight champion like that.
There you go. If you going with personal stories, when I fought Amir Khan, it was for the WBC silver title. I didn't care about anything except for world titles, so I wasn't going to pay the sanctioning fee. I was like, you know what? Yeah. They don't need to take my money. I'm making a lot of money in this fight. I don't want to pay the fee. That belt doesn't matter to me. But then I was thinking, if I win this fight, I'm going to call out Floyd Mayweather because they were talking about Khan fighting. They were at the time, yeah. They were talking about forever. It was Khan Mayweather, and the idea of that Team Khan was the reason they picked me. And I remember talking to his strength coach, Tony Brady. He was like, I knew that was a bad idea. You're way too tough of a guy for them to fight. Because they were thinking, if he beats him worse than Pacquiao, we'll be able to call him Floyd and get the Floyd fight. Obviously, the fight went the way it did. He didn't get the fight because he didn't look that great then. Oh, he actually looked good. I just looked great. But
I thought you won that fight.
yeah, most people do. And so I decided, you know what? I actually am going to pay the sanctioning fee because if I get the WBC silver title, I can then call out Floyd. Because if I didn't do that and then try to call out Floyd, even WBC would be like, no.
I'll tell you probably would have got Floyd.
Yes,
coming off that win,
absolutely.
Yeah. You fit the bill.
I remember doing a
cost you millions. See how robberies just cost you millions of dollars.
So this is great. A prominent journalist grabs me after the fight, and they were like super psyched, and they were like, "Chris, you did so great. That was such an awesome performance." And he's like, "You look sad. You look really." I was really, really bummed. And one of the most bummed I ever was in my life was at the Amir Khan fight, and I was like, I looked at him, I go, I lost. But also in my head, I'm like, I just lost millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like you thought I did good.
Yeah.
I lost millions of dollars. This is life-changing money for me and for my family, honestly. So you got to think about these robberies, how much they actually affect fighters.
Yeah, and it's a similar kind of thing here for Lester Martinez. Is this one of those crossroads, crossover appearance kind of things? Last time in Southern California, I was personally impressed. Man, a lot of Guatemalan flags. This crowd is really Who knew, right? I knew there were a lot of Central Americans. I'm from Southern California, but man, they were out with the flags. And Robert Garcia, and for people who don't know, aren't from Southern California, there is a little like Central American Mexican rivalry, and Robert and I were joking about that on air. He goes, yeah, we had a little bit of, they don't like our fighters, we don't like theirs, da-da-da. He goes, certain guys who have a style that appeals to the Mexican fan base, they'll cross over for him. Arguello was very, very popular with Mexican fans. We like the way he fought. And Lester has the potential to be that crossover kind of star who can get the Central American and the Mexican American and Mexican crowd. That's huge in Southern California, right? Could this, with the belt and everything else, propel him to that kind of level? Because if you look at 168, generally speaking, you have Canelo. Yeah, that's a big weight class for a lot of Mexican Central American fans. That big guys, used to a little bit smaller, welterweight and below. He could really chart new territory. Be the second, to Canelo as far as Latin American fans go. How big is that?
And we spoke about that with Robert the other day, and he says that his people, the Mexican fans and Mexican fighters, they have a lot of respect for Lester. And again, it's alluded to what you said about his style. And I'll say this because I was in camp I was in the Robert Garcia camp for a bunch of camps, and it was when Maidana first came on. And Maidana was very much accepted by the gym and the Mexican fan base because of his style. He was a very aggressive guy. He was a big puncher, but he's a South American guy. Like you said, there's a little bit of this. But listen, when it comes to boxing, Mexicans, if they see you can fight, you're right in the circle of trust.
Everybody likes a pocket fighter who can punch and can fight. I feel like everybody likes that. Latino fans are more passionate. There's more.
It's tribalism.
Their blood is
very
more,
tribal.
No, but it's also they're more hot blooded, right? So they like that kind of thing. They're more emotional. When Latin fans cheer, it's different than when your regular fans cheer, right? They're a little bit more like vociferous, right? That's what makes a great fan base. That's why the Brits are great as well, right? So I think everybody will like a Lester Martinez type of style. I think everybody will like an Emmanuel Lim type of style. But they, of course, when you get the Latins to like you, it becomes a bigger deal because boxing is huge in that community and they're more hot-blooded. They're more passionate.
Triple G. Mexicans love the Mexican style.
Big drama show.
Ruslan Provodnikov. Mexicans loved him. Him. I got a lot of Mexican fans beating Ruslan because of that reason. They loved the way that he fought. I mean, how do you not love the way that I was a huge Ruslan fan growing up, not growing up, but watching him on ESPN while I was actually in camp at Robert Garcia's, watching him on ESPN Friday Night Fights. But yeah, no, there's definitely a style that gets a certain different kind of respect from the Mexican fan base, which is why they are some of the best fans in the world. Them in UK, I think Mexico, I like Mexico a little better, but UK is great too. Sorry guys, Mexican is.
I'm with the UK.
Yeah, there you go.
You
spent more time over there with them. I think I've spent more time around.
I'm
Mexico.
from Southern California. I gotta go Mexican.
All right, guys. All right, leave me out there.
You're on the outside. You're on the outside. You're on the outside.
Still love the British fans.
Oh, they're great.
UK, I got you. Don't worry. I'm the rep.
He'll hold it down for you guys.
Yeah, the pressure in a sense. What's so funny about Lester Martinez was last time out, he started winning when he was boxing, when he got a little space and was throwing combinations. So what's so funny is, as powerful he is, you talk about that Mexican style, when he had success against Christian Billy, it was a little bit of space, and he started boxing nice. And you saw that amateur pedigree he came into the pros with, Paulie. This dude can box. And now working with Bomac,
Yeah,
He can
I mean,
box. He can buy. Not just that Mexican take one to give one kind of
I'm not buying it yet because, to outbox Mbili is not to outbox somebody else. I mean, Mbili, if you're crafty, even Gongora, I think, dropped Mbili, setting up some shots, so and Gongora's crafty. So Mbili, you can walk him into some shots if you box a little bit.
Exactly what he did.
Gongora was Lester into some shots too, to your point.
So I don't know if outboxing Aleem is going to be the same as outboxing Mbili because Mbili's one gear. All gas, right? Aleem will push pull. He'll take your turn. He'll change speed. He'll use throwaway punches and so on and so forth. So to box with Aleem is a little bit more difficult. I think you got to probably do more pressing than boxing. While with pressing and Mbili, you're going against a runaway train, so you actually have an option to let me put on the back foot and box
like
him a
he tried
bit.
to do in the first 5 rounds.
Well, Bomac said it about Aleem. He goes, if you give this guy an inch, he'll box your ears off all night long. Yeah. He knows. Yeah. We know. Aleem is a different kind of guy.
I think Lester has to be the Lester of the early rounds against Mbili against Aleem. I think you got to back up. You don't want Aleem to get too confident because a guy with the ability of Aleem getting confident, the fight. It's an uphill battle after that.
Aside from the very first fight we had Lester on our air, where he fought the Brazilian fighter, I'm at a loss for his name right now. He's fought very, very fast to start. That fight he was a little bit slow. I wasn't super impressed with Lester that night, but ever since then he's looked absolutely incredible. But he starts fast. He fights better when there's a little bit of chaos and it's like that. I think that he was a little surprised at how much pressure Mbili could bring. But once he found a little bit of space and settled down and got used to what the pace was and was in a more control, we got to see the cream rise to the top. So this fight, like you said, Champ, I don't think these guys are gonna have trouble finding each other. I'm pretty sure they're gonna meet in the center of the ring. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of backward steps. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of
nobody's hiding.
No, nobody's hiding. This is gonna be an all out, full on assault. From as soon as these guys decide that it's time to step on it, which is probably going to happen mid round 1, it's going to be a shootout until it's over.
Like two hungry tigers. Let the cage open and let them tear into each other.
They might circle a little bit, but as soon as they decide to engage, it's like that from then on.